Welcome to Bon Mots, where we'll be applying the Manzer or Mosi-Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
Or Mots! This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion advised.
Hello there, and welcome back to Los Signals Oscar season, or MOTScars season, as some of you might remember. But either way, we're going to wrap up the Oscar films and talk about, in our tradition, sort of cut them up into various tiers, top 3, middle 3, bottom 3, since there happens to be 9 films this year, and then talk about what we think and what the Academy might actually do. I, of course, remain Scott Thurlow. I'm here with Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Hello.
And Stephen Amosi.
Howdy, boys.
All right, my friends, so...
I don't know why I did that.
You're a weird dude sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
But regardless... in case you have missed it, or just again as a recap, here are the 2018 Oscar nominees: Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So I'm gonna start off, fellas. We're gonna go. Actually, let's do it reversely. So let's go bottom tier first. So we'll lead up to the best films, the ones that at least we think. Okay. Actually, no. I'm sorry. Backtrack. Excuse me. We're going to say what the Mott scale predicts. So before we get into it, let's go down the line to see what our scale, as we reviewed these films, gave them. So we have 2 ties, 2 perfect 10 films, which were Get Out and Lady Bird. And then behind those is Shape of Water and 3 Billboards, which are 9.3s each. Then we have Dunkirk and Call Me by Your Name at a 8.5 each. Darkest Hour, slightly behind that, 8.3. Phantom Thread, slightly behind that, with an 8. And then the Posts, traditionally, of course, Spielberg's joint, got a 4.6. So, according to our own Mott scale, amongst the nominees, either Get Out or Lady Bird should win. Thoughts on that?
Actually, Lady Bird is still my pick for the year.
Okay.
I think it was a very important film. I think it has universal appeal beyond, even though it's about like a teenage girl growing up, it has that my girl status. Which transcends just like what the
boundaries of itself.
Yeah. And that's spoiler. That's gonna be my choice for the top one.
Fair enough.
I loved Lady Bird, and I do agree with my own score from earlier that I think that it's a 10 movie. However, it's gonna slip to my second tier, I think, because of a couple other movies that came out. Now. That being said, my favorite movie of the year, I think, remains Get Out. I'll keep saying this because I think that Get Out not only has like a really fun movie style to it, it's a good horror movie, but it also bends genres and goes a lot into comedy and like certainly puts its toe into other genres. And on top of that, it has a really important social message to it. So Get Out is my favorite movie of the year. Do I think it's going to win? Probably not, but I would love if it won.
All right, that's fair. So since we sort of jumped, I'll just spoiler you guys. My top pick is 3 Billboards, although Get Out is like very closely behind it. So that's where it lies for me. But as I said, so we've spoiled sort of our own picks. Doesn't matter. We'll push on. So like I said, we'll go like worst to best. So we'll start with the third tier, the bottom 3 films. What do you guys think? What do you got in your bottom list?
Well, obviously, the worst is The Post.
Agreed.
It's personally offensive in its portrayal of feminism. And I just think Steven Spielberg has lost his ability to craft a great movie, and perhaps I'm punishing him a little bit because of all the movies he did very well.
But still,
but beyond that, it's actually a very strong, grouping. I don't. Perhaps Dunkirk would go into the bottom tier, but even it was visually a fantastic film, and
I agree.
And I liked the pacing of it and the 3 intertwining storylines of it. But again, I don't think it's even fair to lump Dunkirk into a worst film grouping.
I agree that this is a very strong year.
Strong field,
The
for
Post
sure.
was obviously, we're all going to agree that The Post was the worst. And this is, as I will mention on the show that's coming out later this week, this is the second time out of 3 years that a Spielberg Hanks movie is the worst movie that is nominated for the Oscars
What does
in
that
the last
tell
3
you?
years, and the other being Bridge of Spies.
Bunch of lies.
Yeah. But
Bridge of Boars is what I call it.
I did get some interesting information about this movie, which is that it got really rushed, and it feels like it. And I think that somebody needed to corral the script and say, hey, and perhaps even Spielberg's treatment of the script, excuse me, and say, hey, this is like the worst kind of pandering to a feminist perspective, and you're not doing it right, and it's just shitty.
In retrospective, what I heard about the film is that they didn't do a great job even portraying Cat
Graham, yeah.
who was a much stronger
In real life.
Yeah. Same.
forceful individual. So again,
I agree. I think it was just. I think that it could have been a very cool movie, but it just didn't have any of the parts that it really needed to be that, and I think it failed on most segments of it. Which I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me about, but bring it on, motherfuckers. My other two movies that are in my lower third are the other two historical picks, unfortunately, because they're both really good movies, Darkest Hour and Dunkirk. Darkest Hour, barely. It was a real toss-up between that and Phantom Thread for what was going into my bottom third. I know a lot of people love Phantom Thread, and don't get me wrong, I love it for what it does stylistically, because Paul Thomas Anderson's amazing and Danny Day-Lewis is obviously amazing. But it didn't have the narrative punch that some of these other movies did for me, and that's kind of what we talk about here. So I'm going to put that. I'm going to put Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, and The Post in my bottom third.
Fair enough. I have a similar list, so we somewhat disagree. I have Post is dead last, obviously. And like as reflected in the score, and I still feel that way. And I think I do agree with you guys. It just mishandled the things it was trying to do. So that's what is sort of like offensive to me about it, especially given its pedigree. And I'm also offended that again it's in the noms, but here we are. So then just above that, I have Phantom Thread, and somewhat to reiterate, like it's not a bad film, like you said, Sivo. This is a strong year, strong field. Just that again, it was the one that was at least was like enthralled by, even like I was least interested in it, even though I enjoyed it afterwards. It just wasn't as impactful as the others. So then I've got Dunkirk at like on the cusp of in the bottom tier.
Right.
Like you said, like it's good film for sure, visually and definitely like auditorily as well. It's just that again, the other ones to me were just obviously done better, or I enjoyed them more. So while I have nothing against Dunkirk, I just, in order to cut it up this way, I have to put it at the top spot in the bottom third. The bottom tier. So
since I have to do the third, I will say Darkest Hour. I think Gary Oldman deserves best actor nom. Or the win for that. But I mean, the reason it's nominated for best picture is the strength of his portrayal.
Because of him, sure.
And yeah, he should get the best actor, but this isn't the best picture.
I think we should mention that it is also a very strong movie stylistically, and we talked about that
for
on
sure.
The
Cinematography
as well.
was awesome. Yeah.
But you could say that about most of the films.
That's true.
In this,
yeah, I mean, like they're the noms for the year, so they should be strong. But like this, even so, even given
I would say, particularly this one. If we were just going on like cinematography, this would be easily in my top three of these movies.
Fair enough. I feel you. All right, so shall we move on to the middle tier?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll start off. I've got at the bottom of the middle tier for me is Call Me by Your Name, and again, like happened to be the last film we saw of the nominations, and again, it was very very strong film. We gave it a aggregate 8.5. So yeah, it's really highly like sort of what you just said. Maybe like visually, I'd put it higher if we're just looking at like the filmatic elements in that sense, but story-wise, narrative-wise, it was fine and all. Again, just that I have others that were personally I was more into, that I enjoyed more as films, so those are going to be like higher on the list. But don't get me wrong, like I said, Call Me by Your Name was a perfectly well-done, solid film. It's just that it's going to be number 3 on my middle tier list. So, what do you guys get?
Well, do you want to do your other two, or do you want to just
I figured we pass it off. Yeah.
All right.
Good.
I mean,
So we're going number by number now. What's number 6 for you guys? Is what we're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me think about it for a little bit.
All right. I'll go because I have my list pretty strongly here. I think Phantom Thread for me is number 6 on this list. Call Me by Your Name is going to be a little bit higher, but
it's not that much of a difference.
I like Phantom Thread more than everybody else. In fact, we just watched the end of that episode again. And apparently, I was the only one that recommended it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I guess it's not that strange, but like, I did really like this movie. I would watch it again. I think that you guys were all saying that you probably wouldn't watch it again, right? Like,
that's true. Yes.
And this film, just for the way that Paul Thomas Anderson can sit you in a room with people and make that room feel full of like emotion and
vibrant, we'll say,
and just this on the strength of his direction and on the strength of the actors. That's number 6 for me. In another year, it could have definitely been higher, but like we said, I think this is a really strong year for movies. So
I'm going to agree with you on Phantom Thread for number 6.
All right.
But this is going to all be very arbitrarily chosen at this moment, based because I haven't seen some of these movies for quite a while.
Well, we haven't seen Get Out for.
There has been a time gap for some, sure,
and that's one of the interesting things that went into it. But you brought it up. I didn't recommend Phantom Thread initially. I think positively upon it now, but you're right. It might not hold up. My memory of it versus my experience of actually seeing it seems to have differed quite a bit. And so that'll be my number 6.
Yep, that's fair. All right, so I'll move up to mine. I've got Darkest Hour above Call Me at 5. And yeah, so like, again, it's definitely the strength of Oldman's portrayal of Churchill that carries that movie along. But it also does have some very nice, again, visual cinematography elements to it that I thought were married really nicely. So I think it's like almost perfectly middle of the road, which is why I put it here, pretty much. You know what I mean? Yeah.
In a way, I'll agree with you. But swapping that, this Call Me by Your Name comes to number 5. I really like that movie, but it's such a to me this feels really arbitrary in how I'm ranking these, because a lot of these are great movies, and it's
aside also, from the post, they're all very good movies.
It's also comparing very dissimilar movies to each other.
Yeah.
So,
true.
like, what I'm in the mood to watch at one point would not be.
Sure, it's going to influence. I get it.
So.
But I mean, like, even so, we still sort of agree that, like, around 5, 6 here, we sort of swapped places with the same movies.
Yeah. Call Me by Your Name is going to be my number 5. Great movie, terrific movie. I really liked it. When we talked about it, I think a lot of what we talked about was that taking out the elements of what makes this such a socially impactful movie, it's kind of a regular old plot, but
sure,
you cannot separate those from what it is. And this feels like a way better, like, talented Mr. Ripley or something like that. I don't know if that's a good comparison.
I don't know about that, but I see like, what you like get that out of it.
It's that character that has a lot of privilege that is in this place, and however that he still is facing difficult decisions and decisions that would make him unpopular.
Sure.
And that adds a lot to that movie. It's a great movie.
You're right.
And I'm going to give it my number 5.
Yeah. That's fair. All right.
Which one was that again? That you give number 5?
Call Me by Your Name.
Okay.
Yeah, we sort of swapped. So I'll move along to my number 4, which is, this might be somewhat controversial, maybe not, but I've got Lady Bird in this spot, which is admittedly somewhat of a tough call. I was somewhat debating where to put it, so I think it deserves the highest spot in middle tier, but my top 3 movies I feel just somewhat edge it out, even though it's one of the only 2 movies on the list that we gave a 10 to when we reviewed it. And yeah, still, like you said, it's a great movie. It has like universal appeal. I think it might be like, I hesitate to use this term, but this might be more of a case to where I can say it, is it's an instant classic, kind of in a sense. Like, I think this movie will be watched and enjoyed by many people throughout, like, years down the line. won't be forgotten. It won't be like a sign of its times in a sense, right? It won't be like it was a good movie in 99 or like 2005 or whatever, right? I think it'll have kind of timeless classic appeal. And yeah, it was a really great directorial debut with a really like down-to-earth story, but so well-rounded, so well fleshed out that it becomes, again, something that you just sort of said, it sort of grows beyond its formulaic boundaries. So,
if I might jump in here, because Lady Bird is also my number 4.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I love this movie, but I wasn't on the Shape of Water episode, but I would have definitely given that a 10. And I think I might have given 3 Billboards a 10. It got a 9.3. I can't remember who gave it a 9, and the other 2 people gave it a 10. So my top 4 movies, I probably gave all 10s to.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Bird.
No, that'd be 1, 10, and 2 9s. 9.3.
Right, and I might have given a 9 to 3 Billboards.
I think Ian and I gave 3 Billboards a 9, and you gave it 10 or something.
That's possible. Anyway, doesn't matter.
We'll get to it.
Regardless, Lady Bird's going to be number 4 for me. It's a wonderful movie that gets Catholic school right really
like
well.
Like I said, it's so well realized.
And it kind of, I feel like it's doing for like twee movies what Juno did however many years ago.
Yes,
that
you
was
keep harping on that point, but I don't disagree. But
I mean, so like it's a very different film than that, but it's kind of the grown-up version of what Juno was.
Sure.
It's kind of like, oh, we figured out how to make this movie. Juno was like, oh, we're making a movie that's completely different than anything that's come before it, really. And this is like, oh, after 20 years of making this type of movie, we kind of have figured out how to make these characters. And, you know, there's a point that Juno is like kind of an asshole character who was made to look good by all the other characters in the movie who are more of assholes, whereas Lady Bird has
a collection of assholes.
Has her asshole parts to her, but every other character is very empathetic. Like, you're very empathetic towards every other character in this movie, despite that, like, despite their shortcomings, you also get to see who they are, and like that's kind of what this type of movie should be, you know, in the end. And I think Lady Bird really nailed it. I think it's almost a perfect picture. I wouldn't be upset if Lady Bird won.
Sure.
I'll say that.
I'll agree.
So my number 4, probably controversially, is Get Out.
Okay.
And I think there's 2 reasons why. One, I haven't seen it in a while, so it's distant to
That's
me.
fair.
2, I saw Black Panther. And Black Panther ultimately is a very optimistic film about like the race relations and the what could be, while Get Out is very much looking at what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And it's interesting having now being able
sort of juxtaposing it.
Prior to that, the comparison I made was to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Mm.
But now I'm comparing it to Black Panther, which shows the strength of Black Panther.
Sure.
And in a way, I like the forward-looking aspect much more than the
somewhat more cynical
outlook of it, and that goes into my assessment of the film, which is perhaps not fair, but it's the way
that's completely fair. Like,
if I could just give a short little addendum there, I think that both sides of that are necessary. You need to be able to have your art reflect what is actually happening, but you also need your art to reflect what the positive outcome of the current situation could be, right? And
as I said, all of these numbers really are particularly arbitrary at this point because, as you said, if Get Out wins, I will by no means be angry. I think it deserves it.
Sure. Again, it's just the nature of like our structures. We sort of tiered up, and like I can see like.
I don't know if it was much easier last year.
Exactly, but I can see why you put it at 4, and I don't have any problem with it. And I see your point. I just personally happen to put it a little bit higher is all.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts? Shall we move on?
Let's move up to the top tier.
Top tier. All right. Well, I'll lead off. So, I've got Shape of Water at my number 3 spot, and I guess I'll just say again, I could sort of flip-flop it between that and Lady Bird. That was like where I was wavering on. They could have basically switched. And yeah, it's somewhat arbitrary, like the way we cut it up. But nevertheless, I think it just ekes it out because it has Guillermo's like touch to it. Because it's sort of like a magical realist story, which I, again, biased towards personally. But I just think they're somewhat not similar in a sense, but it was funny because I think we were talking out the precast that 3 of these movies are basically the same like love plot, like more or less, like with various other factors, yes, attached to them. But nevertheless, I just think visually it was like more appealing just because of the nature of it. Again, like I said, and the performances were top notch. And I just, again, it's something that I am into. So I admit again that it may be unfair of me in a sense to put it here versus, but nevertheless, it's 3 for me. And I think it's a goddamn great film. And we gave it a 9.3. So I'm pretty sure I gave it a perfect score.
I'm putting 3 Billboards as my
at number 3, huh?
It's probably more of a testament to my growing tastes.
Sure.
In that, again, just as a point we got, like 3 Billboards is bleak. 3 Billboards is a analysis of the state of where America is, and perhaps I'm a bit
I get you.
Tired
wary of like the negativity that surrounds.
Life sucks. Yeah. I know.
And like I want escapism. I want hope. I want, and the Billboards, especially if Sam Rockwell actually killed his mother, which I have to go back and
still point of contention here.
We're gonna watch that movie again. I'm pretty sure it didn't happen, but
is like it's not a hopeful film, and it's a great film. I really like the director of it. I really like all the portrayals. I hope Sam Rockwell gets best supporting actor for that. I think he completely deserves it. Or even Woody Harrelson could. Like, both of them are like fantastic. And Frances McDormand also should win Best Actress for this. It's just it's when I was younger, I would have loved this film.
Sure.
For its bleakness. As I'm growing older in my age,
somehow less cynical.
I'm cynical of the cynicism.
Yes.
Oh, it's easily the most nihilistic movie of the bunch, right?
For sure.
It's it's actually 3 Billboards is also my pick for
number 3. Okay.
Great movie. I really love it. I think it's elevated so much by its performances. And you know, we talked a lot about it, how bleak it was when we were doing our episode about it, and it's just it's a really good movie, and it's kind of my type of movie. You know,
you're cynical.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I'm cynical. I'm optimistic, but cynical. I also believe that my optimism will be smashed at every opportunity.
Isn't that cynicism? I'm just busting your balls.
Cynicism. Cynical optimism, I would say.
Sure. Optimistically cynical, whatever.
But it's a great film, and all 3 of these top 3 movies are going to be great. It's a matter of inches. And honestly,
sure,
Lady Bird.
Right. That's a good.
Honestly, Lady Bird could have snuck in here, and 3 Billboards could have been in 4th for me too. Like it was just kind of almost a coin flip.
It's kind of a toss up.
In terms of that, but yeah, 3 Billboards is my number 3.
All right, fair enough. So I have. So I was, you mentioned it. Get Out was my number 2, and I was going to write to sort of not rebut, but again comment upon something you said. So yes, it came out almost a year ago. It came out like last February, I believe, something like that. So, but I happen to have seen it again recently. So like yes, it was nice to see it fresh. Like it felt fresh, and in fact, I wasn't certain, as you said, like how I was going to view it having seen it a second time. But in fact, I still think it stands. In fact, I say got like maybe a couple more things out of it since I knew a lot of the twists and stuff, like the story. So, but beyond all that, I still think it's an important film to be recognized because of what it is and because of what it's trying to do, culturally and socially. So I'm giving it a lot of credit on that, but I still think it's a goddamn good film. It's something unique in a sense, even amongst these the noms. Like it's not quite like you can sort of again draw a parallel between Dunkirk and Darkest Hour, obviously, and Lady Bird and Call Me by Your Name, or Shape of Water, even. Like Get Out was a bit of an odd duck, if you will, but in a great way. So I just think it's something special, unique that we haven't seen really before, and I'm really glad that it actually made the nominations, and I would be happy if it won as well. It's just that, yeah, again, you're right. It's a game of inches for sure at this point, but I am putting it at number 2 for all those reasons. So
I'm putting Shape of Water at number 2.
Mm-hmm. See, it's funny. We're like just slightly shifting it around.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to do that. All right. I didn't think you were going to make Shape... never mind.
Go on.
Well, I already said Lady Bird was my number one. So,
oh, that's right. That's true. You did say that earlier.
Shape of Water, I don't know. Like, the thing is, I really don't have any reason why it's better than any of the other films. And, Michael Shannon was a mediocre villain in that, even though I like him as an actor. But there's just something about that film.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that.
It's got this aura around it, something like that.
It's an adult fairy tale, and again, that's I'm looking for kind of the, it's not an optimistic. Well,
it is and it isn't at points. Sure,
it's an adult fairy tale. It provides that escapism that I'm looking for in a film.
Yeah,
and I think it does a very good job of that.
I'll agree.
I
pretty much said that.
I'm also putting Shape of Water as my number 2.
Nice.
Guillermo del Toro does a wonderful job. It has a wonderful return to form, like Pan's Labyrinth style storytelling, and this movie is what Pan's Labyrinth I think would have been if he had done it now. And
sure,
it's like he
built upon that.
You see Pan's Labyrinth in there, and Pan's Labyrinth was an amazing movie, and
that it was
perhaps even a better story than Shape of Water.
I don't know.
I see Guillermo del Toro's storytelling ability as a director not much more clearly, but more clearly in this movie than I even did in Pan's Labyrinth, which it was clearly there at the time. Like, don't get me wrong.
You're saying like he's
it
sort
was
of
incredible, but like
maturation.
He sort of he honed it.
I think he has had time to kind of understand how to tell a story visually and through the script and through the actors and through and through the music. Like, all of these different things come together in this movie. I think it's incredible. And if my and maybe it's even just 8-month-old nostalgia or 10-month-old nostalgia at this point, or 12-month-old nostalgia at this point. But I remember loving Get Out so much. In any other year, I think Shape of Water would take it for me. But I think that it's number 2 for me. I think Shape of Water is number 2 for me this year.
Yeah, no, it's fair. So I don't want to get into a huge rabbit hole, but I think personally I like Shape of Water better than Pan's Labyrinth, even though it's sort of the natural extension from Pan's Labyrinth. So I think it is indeed his best movie to date, at least my favorite one. So that's why I'm putting it.
I completely agree.
All right, so shall we move on to drumroll, big
number
reveal?
1, which we've already told everybody.
Yeah, well, now we can speak more about it. And mine is 3 Billboards, of course, and it's funny because the reason you called it out, so all credit, that, it's nihilistic and cynical, but that's the story I fucking love, and it just hit all those points for me. And like you said, the acting of everybody in it, all the people who are in the various categories to be nominated, I think they deserve it. It's funny that Woody Harrelson is running against his own co-star Sam Rockwell for supporting, and I think Frances is absolutely going to take Best Actress. She should, although I'm not saying she's head and shoulders above everyone else, but amongst the nominees in that category, I think she did a great job, and this movie shows her just range and depth. But beyond all that, like I said, it's the story that I like, and I'm going to love it. Like, the movie already sold me on it, going into it, and just it was a bonus in all ways that everybody turned in a great performance, and the script was so fucking tight and just sharp, and everyone's just spitting barbed wire at each other, and it was awesome. So yeah, a very personal pick. Sure, I admit that, but nevertheless, it is going to be my number 1.
So I'm sorry, real quick. So the only actress that is up for actress in a leading role that we haven't seen in a movie yet
is Margot
Robbie, and I heard she's great, but I don't think she has any chance to win.
Meryl Streep isn't going to steal it away from her.
First of all, Meryl Streep might win somehow,
but she shouldn't,
because she's Meryl Streep, but she absolutely should not.
Agreed.
No offense to Meryl Streep, I really like her as an actress, but this was not her best role by any means, not even close.
Exactly. Go on.
Sally Hawkins in Shape of Water was really good.
She'd been my second pick.
She would... I don't know, but Saoirse Ronan was also really good in Lady Bird.
It's tough, sure. But let's not rabbit hole ourselves either, but nevertheless.
But yeah,
Frances McDormand deserves the win for this.
I think we can agree on that.
I think that Frances McDormand was a force of nature in this movie, and definitely she deserves the win. I guess just to say my number 1 while I'm talking here, Get Out was my number 1, which I said earlier. It was,
for all the reasons you've previously explained.
Exactly.
Sure.
It's just such a... It's an important movie that never gets preachy, really. It never gets like completely full of itself. It doesn't get like, it just tries to tell a fun story from a point of view that many people are not used to seeing a story being told from.
That you've never quite seen before, or at least if not, don't often, you haven't seen it quite done like this.
Yeah, and Jordan Peele, for his first outing as a director, has such a deft touch behind the
camera,
sitting in the director's chair, that it's almost unbelievable. This is his first movie. I think that him being such a, and like I've read a little bit about him being such a cinephile, really made this movie what it is.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to seeing more from him, but I'm also looking forward to seeing movies be considered
in that vein,
great movies that are like this, that are a little bit out of the normal Oscars territory, like addressing race, addressing things like that. But, being able to do it in kind of a fun way, but a serious way, like depending on what point of the movie it's in, things like that. Like Black Panther, I think, is probably going to be an Oscar nom this year.
It goddamn should be.
And first of all, not only an Oscar nom, but the guy's going to get Best Director nom as well.
I
second that at least very much should.
We almost got the similar deal with Wonder Woman last year, which was a great movie. Don't get me wrong, but I think Black Panther tops it in the way that it addresses the social issues that it's trying to address, and I'm excited to see what happens. I don't think Black Panther will win by any means, but I think it will be nominated, and that's a big step forward for superhero movies.
It is one of the high, it grossed an incredible amount of money.
It did, but that doesn't mean much in the Oscars.
This discussion is for next year, though.
Yeah. But certainly it's a good sign early on this year. So that's our personal picks in the MOTScars.
Hold on.
Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Well, you're right.
Steve-O jumped over me. So
you're right. Well, we know what it is, but expand upon it.
Lady Bird, I'll be quick. It is a film that made me feel a very deep paternal care for the main character of this. The movie really struck a chord, and I mentioned a lot about this, like the universal appeal and all that. And to me, this was the movie I needed at this point in my life. And granted, that might not mean it's the best picture of the year, but
that's still, it's your personal picture.
And it won the Golden Globe for best comedy or whatever.
I believe so.
I think so. It has its recognized greatness, but beyond just my personal taste for it.
For sure. Absolutely.
Might we briefly say how good A24 as a studio has been? They did
give them a shout out. Yeah, they've been killing it in terms of their production.
They did 3 Billboards. They did a bunch of other great movies this year that were not on the list. But also, I think that
keep your eye on them.
What do you guys think is going to win?
Well, that's what I was getting to.
Okay, all right.
That's our final thing. So we said what the MOTScars said and what our personal picks were. Now let's cynically pick through what we think the Academy will actually do. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, either of you, as of now, it has been for a while, and I believe Shape of Water is still the favorite to win by like a lower mark, like 3-1 or something like that, which is fine. Like I can see that. I think, and then either Get Out or no, what is it? Sorry, I think 3 Billboards was the next favorite one.
Yeah.
We didn't quite do our research, so I apologize right before this one. It was something like that.
We did some research.
And then the spread is like the middle ones we just said. So what do I think is going to, the Academy, like probably Shape of Water, and I would have no problem with that. I would be very enthused if Get Out like snuck in, like not, again, managed to pull down the award. Right. It probably won't, but there's a, it's like the thing from...
No, it's almost certain.
You tell me there's a chance. Like it might be one in a million chances.
I'm telling you there's no chance whatsoever that Get Out wins Best Picture. And I will eat my shoe if that happens.
Well, then behind that...
Well, we'll film Ian eating his shoe if Get Out wins, so you guys can look forward to that.
Be sure to check that out.
What do you think, E?
Well, I got to go with what the Golden Globes won for that. It was 3 Billboards, and it was Lady Bird. So I think that 3 Billboards is a very high shot of it. I think Guillermo del Toro is going to win the Shape of Water
director
for the Shape of Water, but I don't think the Shape of Water is going to win.
See, I could see that. That's a good point. They might give him one and not. Yeah. Yes. What do you think, Steve-O?
I do think that Shape of Water is going to win. I think that Jesus Christ, Del Toro is going to win for director as well. I think he's going to pull a.
Double kill?
Spielberg?
No, not a Spielberg. Who's the guy for one for Birdman? God, and Revenant.
Alejandro.
Yeah, I can't.
Something.
I can't, oh my
his
God.
name is very hard to pronounce.
That's terrible. Please believe me, I know his name. I cannot remember it right now for the life of me. But
Inatario or something like that.
I think that's what's gonna happen. I think that's what's gonna happen, and I think that Shape of Water is gonna pull this one down. I just think it hits all the right buttons for the Oscar voters and things like that. So,
you guys, but I'm still picking that Guillermo will win for Best Director or something else.
Absolutely,
for Best
yeah.
Picture.
Yeah, I feel you. Like, I could totally see that.
Fair enough.
And I wouldn't be surprised by it if it happens. So yeah, like, it seems like those are the favorites. Again, like, according to the experts that we troll their sites, not troll them themselves, that we check out their sites here and there.
We like terrible
and,
comments.
Yeah, and I can see all that. Like, it makes sense. Like, it's, even though it seems as if, in a good way, the Academy is getting some fresh blood, some fresh faces through it, and, like, making bolder picks, even though the Post is, like, the least boldest pick ever in the world. But, like, again, like, Get Out, even, like, Call Me by Your Name is, like, somewhat, like, a bolder pick, or, you know,
certainly.
could be, like,
Certainly.
compared to other years.
Yeah.
So, if anything other than the Post wins, that'd be awesome. The three that I would love to see are Shape of Water, Get Out, and Billboard. And if Get Lady Bird also takes it, that's fine too. So those are the ones we gave 10s to, that is Lady Bird and Get Out. And the next two were 9.3s, so they're not all that far behind. So we're somewhat like in line with what we actually thought were the best films and what we think the Academy will actually give it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that angle with they'll give Guillermo the director, but maybe not film. So I think that's how it somewhat cuts up. You guys got anything else to add, or did we miss anything? Did I miss anything?
We missed, I think, one thing.
Yeah.
Have we seen any movies this year that we think should have been on the list, but wasn't?
Oh, yeah, is that what got snubbed? Yes. Good call. There is one. I think The Post can go away, like I just said, and they should put Mudbound there instead.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Other movies that could be on the list, I would say instead of Dunkirk, like you could have The Big Sick, or several other movies, by the way, that I have not yet seen, that I have heard are great, and I really need to check out. There's
The Florida Project's a big one.
The Florida Project is one that people have been talking about that I really need to see.
I, Tonya is supposed to be amazing.
I, Tonya, yeah.
I really liked Logan Lucky.
Logan Lucky was incredible.
That's a good pick. Good call.
But
absolutely. I think perhaps the best Soderbergh movie that I've ever seen, including, like, I love Ocean's 11. I had a great time with that movie, but I like Logan Lucky more than Ocean's 11, I think.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
had a lot more to say than Ocean's 11.
100%, yeah.
No, I agree. You guys are right. Post can go away, and any of those movies could be slotted
what about
in.
Blade Runner? Would you put that on?
Now, see, this is a tricky one because I wasn't going to mention this on air, but Blade Runner, in fact, is my favorite film of the year, like of all the films I've seen. The thing is, I don't know, like, I wouldn't be upset if, again, Post was gone and Blade Runner was in its spot, but I don't know if it quite, like, it's a good film, yeah, I enjoyed it, but is it, like, quite in the same caliber as the rest of these? I honestly don't know if that's the case.
It's a strange thing because it's got, like, that, it's got a pedigree.
Yeah.
It's got great cinematography. It's got a good soundtrack. Like, it fills a lot of these, like, holes that you're looking for.
It's up for one or two on the awards, at least
for a good
one,
Oscars movies, a good Oscars movie, but it didn't. I don't think it broke through in the same kind of way that like Mad Max did. As far as like a follow up movie.
Yeah.
It was a great movie. I loved it. I loved it, and it did Blade Runner proud. And I know you are not the hugest fan of the original Blade Runner, but I know you liked this movie a lot. And like, I think that it did the original. I love the original, and I think it did the original proud.
I agree.
I don't think it was as good as the original, in my mind, in terms of like what it does for the medium.
Exactly.
Right? Like, yeah, there have been a lot of like steps that have been made since that original movie came out, but that did so much for film when the original Blade Runner came out in terms of sci-fi and like progressing the genre and progressing filmmaking in general, like cinematography, all that type of stuff. But I don't know if I would put it on an Oscars list.
No, I agree. I just don't think it was as impactful versus like many others, even though I greatly enjoyed it and it was a great follow-up, like you said, Steve-O. So, yeah, that's how I sort of answer that question. Though, good question.
What do you think, E?
Whether Blade Runner should be on there?
Yeah.
Well, the Post made it on there.
Yeah, well, let's fucking forget about the. Yeah,
I'm trying to.
If Blade Runner was made by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Hanks, it would have won the fucking Oscar this year.
But it would have been a way worse movie. Anyways, I mean, like it's harsh, but like no doubt that we need to stop automatically giving Spielberg and whoever, especially him and Hanks, a free pass to be in the fucking Oscar noms.
Yeah, they're like a shitty version of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like you can't just load your team up and then expect to win, man. You gotta do the work.
Yeah, you gotta win the games. Sure, that's really funny though. But I do like that. I do like that question. Yeah. I do like that question and that analogy. So anything else to add? I don't have anything else to follow it up with. Right. Really. I do. Blade Runner is in visual effects category, which I think it should definitely win.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, and that's a fine win. It definitely deserves that. Like I said, I just don't know if it is as innovative or as impactful as some of the other ones. So that's where I put it. Even though it is, again, my personal favorite, but amongst the Oscar noms, we just said what we said about them and where we stand. Yeah. So, any final thoughts? Anything we actually did forget at this point?
I don't think so.
I think we're good. All right. Well, that's our Oscar/MOTScars wrap up for this year. I, of course, have been Scott Thurlow, and I've been here with Jonathan Ian Manzer.
So I'm going to give an epilogue here.
Okay. movie epilogue.
We've gotten the pleasure to see some of the greatest films of this year, and one of the worst. But since we got to watch all these great movies, coming in March, I am punishing us with watching one of the worst of all time.
Well, we'll see.
Stay tuned.
Can't wait. I think you did that last March. Or was that April? It was April. We watched Leonard Part 6.
It turned out not to be one of the worst of all time.
Well,
it was pretty bad.
One
go back and check that out. But you're right. Like after having seen all the great Oscar movies, you do have to sort of watch some not so great movies. So we will be doing that. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been here with Stephen Amosi as well.
And I am a golden god.
All right. And we will see you next time. Thanks for joining. Good night.
Editing and engineering by Scott Thurlow. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.